watching an Odom?
It's going live right now.
But they're going to play the Ravens on that.
They are here too.
All right. Can you all hear me okay? Yep. Yeah. Okay, I can see Gwen and Mary and Heidi and Craig, and I think I saw Pete McClendon. Is anybody else here? Blake, hi, Blake.
Kathy's here.
Hi, Kathy.
No.
I think Gwen's still doing the pledge.
No. I was looking at the walkers.
Hey, you take it seriously. We appreciate that.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and begin with an approval of the minutes. Take a motion to approve.
I don't anticipate any
Great. Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. Aye. Tremendous. John, I'm going to turn it to you for some good news.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, everybody. We'd like to talk about our culture this morning and some good news tied to our culture of safety at Metro. Brian Chesky of Airbnb said, culture is simply a shared way of doing something with a passion. And in terms of our operation, we operate with a passion regarding safety. When we say that our service needs to be safe, reliable, and on time, safe comes first for a reason. So sharing some of our safety achievements for calendar year 2019, more than 100 operators and maintenance employees were recognized for achieving safety milestones. Now, these achievements that I'm going to go through here, while they are special, they become part of what we do here. Year after year, we have many safety stars at Metro, but we need to keep celebrating their efforts. They're safe every day. They win every day, and that is the focus. 100 people will receive special recognition in June, which is Safety. 10 employees have achieved 10 years without a single preventable accident within their first 13 years of service. That's 10 years within their first 13 without a preventable accident. And when we judge accidents, it's not just what you might think in terms of fault or a traffic fault or citations. The preventable standard is whether the employee could have done anything to prevent the accidents. Our defensive driving principles, our workplace safety principles, are we following those to prevent the accident? So it is a higher standard. So achieving years without preventable accidents is quite extraordinary. 16 employees have now reached 10 consecutive years without a preventable accident or injuries. But when we mention injury, we want to shine a spotlight on, in particular, our maintenance employees working in their industrial environment with hazards all around. Maintenance employees continue to achieve tremendous safety accomplishments here at Metro. And 17 employees have now reached 15 or more years free of accident or injuries. Just outstanding. Continuing through some more highlights of 2019 in the area of safety. Overall accidents were down 19%, and accidents, let's use that in the broad sense. That's vehicle collisions, that's slip and falls, that's workplace accidents. Overall accidents down 19% in 2019. And just at Queensgate alone, to shine a spotlight on the preventable collision underneath the accident incident umbrella. So these preventable collisions out there on the road where we could have done something to prevent an accident, even if not at fault. Those collisions were down 17% out of the Queensgate garage. And in 2019, a particular point of emphasis from the safety team was to address accidents or collisions with a fixed object off property. So out there in the street, in the right of way, you'd be amazed how many signs and trees and posts can infringe on the actual right of way and operating in the street. The fixed objects was a tremendous point of emphasis from our safety team. Fixed objects off property collisions down 42%, just terrific. And this goes all the way from the operators, the maintenance employees, all the way up to TJ Thorne and his department. TJ Thorne, Kim Gaffey, Keith Groman, we're very excited about their efforts. Very pleased to have them on the team, and they continue to shine. So moving forward, how about a feel-good news story? Let's walk through this here together. Let's talk about Rob. Yes.
Can I, just before you go, on the safety, normally we have a safety annual meeting, right? And that's around, so.
We're working on some way to do that either remotely or move it to later on in the year. We're going to recognize our employees for our safety. We're trying to find out how to do it in these times.
Right. Yeah,
We're going to recognize them.
thanks. All right, Jeff.
Okay. Let's talk about Robin. Robin shared her story after being released from a hospital after an extended stay and sharing her ride on Metro. Robin takes the 19 downtown to transfer to the 21, and she's still in her hospital gown. Imagine that, after being in the hospital for an extended stay, and she's depending on Metro to get her home. Operator Will Robinson made sure that was going to happen. And if you know Will, that this statement here from Robin, vividly recalling what Will told her, I can hear him saying this, telling her, "Sister, sit here so I can keep an eye on you." That's Will. Will has a big heart. Will is looking out for everybody around him, prioritizing folks over himself. That's how Will is, and I'm sure that operates his vehicle. So Will keeps an eye on Robin as she takes the 19 downtown to transfer. So then she boards the 21 downtown, and operator Dominique Elliott asked Robin if she could sit close so that he could keep watching her, keep an eye on her, make sure she needed to get where she was going. But upon arriving at the stop, Dominique doesn't stop there. He watches her get into her apartment safely. He moves the bus to maintain a view of her and waving as she got in, and he pulled away so that she knew there was somebody out there looking out for her, and Dominique wasn't going to leave until he knew that she got where she needed to be safely after her hospital stay. So this is the kind of thing that happens every day in our community, that happens out there on the road, the type of thing our employees do each and every day. We were very thankful to get the feedback from Robin and wanted to share that with you and commend Will and Dominique for being excellent representatives of the organization. Mr. Chairman, that's the news.
Don, as always, a terrific report. Thank you for taking the time to find these good stories and to share them with the board. It's a nice moment to hear these things that are going on. I think we've all been, I know we're going to talk about everything of the last few weeks, but when you share stories like this, you help us see that the individual interactions that our operators have with riders every day, day in and day out, is what makes our system so great, and why people rely on us and why people care about Metro so much. And so I just taking the time to do this every month is really the right thing to do, and I'm grateful that you put the time into doing it, so thank you.
Thank you, sir. It's my pleasure.
I think I'm turning it to, who am I turning it to for the ridership report? I'm on my phone, so I apologize for not being
That's right.
Matt. Paper in front of me. Matt.
Morning. I'm here. You're up, buddy.
All right. Good morning, everybody. I have just a really short, just a real high-level overview of the May ridership for you today. So just starting with the fixed route ridership. Total ridership for the month of May was 390,000. It's about 62.5% off from our original projections of what we thought would be in May. Local ridership makes up the bulk of that at 387,700. Express ridership was around 2,200, but just as a reminder, we're only running about 5 routes. The contracted service and just a couple others. So, I'm sorry?
You were a little bit hard to hear, maybe too far away from the mic.
Cool. All right, let me get a little here. Is that better? All right. And you want to go back over that again, or just continue on?
Start over if you would.
Sure, no problem. All right, so the month of May, our ridership was about 390,000, and that's about 62.5% off from the original projection. The local ridership makes up the bulk of that, which is 387,700. The express ridership was around 2,200, but keeping in mind that we're only running about 5 routes, 3 of those being contracted routes. And year to date, ridership total is 3.7 million. That's about 29.5% lower than our original forecast. And then very quickly turning over to Access. The total ridership for Access was 3,250 rides. That's about 82.5% or 15,000 rides lower than the original projection. The bulk of those trips, about 2,800 of those, are on weekdays. 240 trips were on Saturdays, and 195 of those were on Sundays. And year to date, the total ridership for Access is 54,111. It's about 43.5% lower than our original projections. And as you know, obviously, COVID-19 is continuing to have a big impact on ridership overall. And that's all I have. If there are any questions.
So I'm thinking about the people who, it looks like April and May, if you go back to the local ridership slide, it looks like April and May are pretty flat. Am I looking at that right? May seems to like popped up a little bit.
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, April. Yes, sir. April was about 376,000. We're up to 389 or 390,000.
How many of those people are we able to individually identify? I mean, I guess that would be people who purchase fare cards, right? Is that it?
Yeah, this is based off total fare box data. So I'm not sure if those are passes or cash, the discrepancy or the makeup of those, but I know it's both together.
Yeah, no discrepancy. I'm just curious, like, do we have any good data on
monthly passes that were sold? We could also look at the app. It tells us how many individual people use the app. We can pull some data from that and circle it back up to the board.
Well, I guess what I'm just
yeah,
no. I guess the reason I'm going down the path is I'm just curious, like, those people who are writing right now are people who rely on us probably more than ever, and they're probably essential workers, and they're probably people who if they were writing during this time, Metro means a whole lot to them. And so I wondered if there is just a way to be in good touch with them, or to essentially, these are our best customers in a way. And so I just am curious as to, as we continue to build our service, our relationship with our customers is going to be incredibly important. And I think about, during this time of the pandemic, how many places that I shop or places that I go have reached out because they know, I'm a loyal customer. So Kroger sends me notes and says, thanks for being a loyal customer and all that business. And we don't have a ton of ways to do that, but I just think about in the future, as our system becomes even more robust and we touch more people across the county, that being able to interact with people like that is probably would be a big benefit to us.
I've got a couple of ideas, and there are a couple of ways that we can reach out. We'll put something together and circle back around maybe in the next meeting and talk about some of the ways we can do some of that. That's a great idea, Brendan. Thank you.
You had it right. It's a great idea. That's good. Can I ask you, are there any standard routes that look like are consistent? I mean, people are coming back to some of those main routes versus some of them that people haven't come back. I'm just looking at what communities are coming back.
Right now, if you look at April and May's ridership is really close to the same. So there is a slight uptick in May, so it's pretty much the same routes with the same ridership right now. Also realize that most of our express routes aren't running right now. By the end of the month, they'll start running again. So we believe we'll pick up some ridership from that. But as the city and the county opens back up, we believe more people will begin to ride, which is why at the end of this month, by the end of this month, we'll be back to full service.
I'm trying to figure out which area or which community is, is it still in Avondale or is it still, I'm trying to get a fix on which communities are coming back.
Yeah, in your packet, there is the ridership by route. So if you would like to take a look at the by route,
Thank you.
you can. And one of the other things about our reduced service, we didn't reduce our service as much as a lot of other systems did. Most of our service still runs. We didn't have as big a cut as other systems had. And again, going back to full service.
I have a question for you, Daryl. You got a rider advisory committee meeting on the 28th.
I guess I need to hear what those folks said and how many of those folks are still finding.
It was very interesting. We did have a rider advisory committee meeting at the end of the month, and there were only 2 people on the rider advisory committee that were still riding, because the rest of them are working from home or not working, or UC students. Their school's not in. But even the ones that were riding said they were riding less frequently because things weren't open, because they were social distancing. They weren't going to as many places. So even the rider advisory committee, which are people that are dedicated to riding the bus, aren't riding as much during these times because things weren't open. The jobs are closed. School is closed. But they all said they're looking forward to the city opening back up so they can begin to get out again and ride again. So part of the reason that the ridership is down is not just jobs, but a lot of the medical facilities are closed for essential only. A lot of the stores were closed. So there were a lot of things closed, a lot of no reason to go places because places weren't open. But even the rider advisory committee, there were only 2 people that said that they were still riding on a regular basis.
So have we fully announced, I didn't know I was going to ask, but you just kind of said it, that we'll be full service again by the end of the month. Is that what you're saying? And is that's something that we'll start to communicate soon?
Yes, we have started communicating. We haven't given a date. It will be driven by making sure our operators are safe. So we're installing shields on the remainder of the buses. I am confident they will be done by the end of the month. So by the 28th, and we always try to start service changes on a Sunday. By the 28th of the month, we will be full service. So within the next week, we'll get a verification that all those shields will be installed, and then we'll do a mass communication, letting customers know that our service will be back to full service. The only exception to that is the Route 42, which is the route out of Butler County. Because their ridership is down over 90%. That's the service they pay for. They have decided to stop running that service completely until sometimes later on this year. So other than the 42, the rest of the service will be coming back.
Okay, great news. Thank you. Okay, any other questions on ridership or general operations? And then we're going to shift into what is billed as a policy discussion on the agenda. So any other questions on this? Okay, so Craig or Daryl, I'm not sure. Did you want to kick this off? We have on the agenda a discussion. Okay.
It's a little bit of a background. Maybe Daryl, could you go on mute? So there's no echo. We have a long history of cooperating with Cincinnati Fire and Cincinnati Police for a variety of purposes, right? Historically, when they needed to move people around, if there's a fire in an apartment building that needs to shelter people, when the 5th third shooting happened, we had 3 buses out there all day supporting the activities for, keeping people safe and things. And it really benefited greatly, I think, from those partnerships in return, the safety and care that they provide to the operators and riders of Metro. And this is a long-standing relationship. One, I think it's benefited both parties. for all parties involved as part of this kind of civil servant community. In talking with Donna and Daryl, couldn't remember any time when we had a request from one of those agencies that did not fulfill it. So I think it was in that spirit and expectation that the request came a couple weeks ago to provide some service in the weekend, 2 weekends ago, that I know created quite a bit of conversation. I think folks are aware that we work hard with the city manager, the chief of police, and the mayor to find other solutions. None were arrived at that made folks feel like the people that have been detained would be safe and properly cared for. So, ended up at this urgent request and in a rush to allow the the use of our buses. This was based on quite a long history of precedent and things, and so what we realize is there's no formal policy written on this subject, right? So what I would like to do is have the board take that on to put a policy together so that in the future we can respond under the policy as opposed to having to do it a little bit on the fly. So with that in mind, I've asked Glenn Robinson, with the help of Heidi, and I'd like to get some volunteers from the county folks. I'm sorry I haven't had a chance to reach out to you, to have that discussion and come back with the administration with some proposals for what we ought to be doing going forward. But I would like you to understand the history that we were working under. I'd also like that group to think about the concept of curfews. I think folks are aware that the union, because of prior issues, were a little uncomfortable driving during the curfew. I think this obviously was a very broad curfew, as it turned out. If we have other situations like that, hopefully not for decades, we need to have a policy there too. And now as we're kind of broader and broader into the county, it could be different scenarios could play out. So I'd like that group to take this on and come back to us with some proposals so that we're not working on a policy as opposed to just precedent going forward. So Brandon, I open to discussion on it, or open to taking volunteers who want to participate in that.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I feel compelled to say to you and to Daryl that these are. Can you hear me? I feel compelled to say to you and to Daryl, and in particular, and I know you made a lot of phone calls on Sunday night, and then over the course of the day to Monday, that these are. Can you hear me? I keep hearing Craig say, "Can you hear me?"
I can hear you, Brendan.
Okay. I think that these are tough decisions to make, and I appreciate what the organization has done over the last few days. I appreciate that you tried to find other solutions, particularly on Monday, and I'm grateful that both of you were people who took calls from the police chief and the city manager and the mayor and navigated this. And I recognize that this was a situation that was fraught and difficult. But ultimately, I think that your point about not always finding ourselves in a position where we support requests like this is a good one. I think that in the moment that was the right thing to do. I think that I am proud, and I am proud of our operators because of how well they work with public safety leaders from across the region. And I think that I appreciate that the way our public safety leaders across the region, when we have an issue or we have a problem, they show up and they come and they help our operators and they help our system like we are public servants just like them. And I think that that's really important. But I also understand that this is a moment in time where our community has high expectations of us, and communication is important and transparency is important. And so I fully support this conversation and the idea of developing a policy that will help guide these sorts of decisions in the future so people's expectations of what we're doing are clear. And so I commend you Daryl for creating this opportunity. I think Gwen and Heidi, and I hope other people will do a tremendous job kind of navigating this in the future. So that's what I had to say. And I'm sorry for the background noise. I'm not yet in transit,
I'm so
but
delayed. No, yours is like so much faster.
Yeah, I apologize. My computer froze up in the other room, so
It's because it's.
sorry if I got cut off at the end.
you didn't get cut off. I just was
Oh, I was like, dude,
talking about you.
I was up there having conversations ahead of me. I was going to go to IT. Like,
Hey, Craig, I'd like to volunteer to be on that committee also.
Great, thanks, Pete. I know you have some strong opinions and would like to get them engaged.
Well, I appreciate the hard decisions that have to be made in a short amount of time. You took some good leadership on that. I may have disagreed with some of the outcomes, but I agree that going forward, we should have a policy that is transparent and open and honest.
Okay, thank you.
Craig, our policy should be, I think, in the form of an MOU with those jurisdictions so that they sign on. It's not just us having a policy, but they need to sign on to whatever that policy is.
Well, that's why you're in charge of this committee, Gwen, right? You can bring it to us.
Okay, thank you.
This is Blake Etheridge. I'd like to be on this committee.
Okay. I think that's probably a good group to start, and we'll all engage certainly as that working group brings back perspective.
All right.
Should Mel reach out to us about scheduling some time for us to get together?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Chanel.
Patty, thanks, Chanel. Okay. Are there any other questions or comments about anything that's been happening or anything that might be happening in the next month that anyone wants to raise right now? I will then just end by telling you that the new art walk at the Art Museum in Eden Park, which is conveniently on several bus lines, is a wonderful bit of exercise. I encourage you to stretch before you do it, and don't overdo it in the morning. But it's a lovely spot on one of our great lines, and I hope everyone has a wonderful week.
Yeah. Talk to everybody next week.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Take care.